Hello and welcome to my channel, where I'll be telling you all kinds of strange stories, ranging from true crime to some much less believable, although just as fascinating, tales. For today's video, we have the mysterious disappearance of Rebecca Coriam. Listen in and see what you think. The cruise business has grown in popularity steadily since the 1980s. Essentially, the cruise ship is a massive, floating, self-sufficient community en route to exotic places, filled with exceptional food, never-ending drinks, and plenty of entertainment. And they have been a great lure for visitors for some decades now, and this shows no signs of abating. However, such a lifestyle of leisure and luxury is not without a dark underbelly. If you want the good, you have to expect the bad. There have been over 400 reported occurrences of people going missing from cruise ships since the year 2000, with just around 10% of those cases being resolved. Some will have fallen overboard, some will have jumped, some will have left the ship at a port and never returned, and the fate of others will be a mystery. And since cruise companies are not legally compelled to make public every instance of a passenger who goes missing or goes overboard, some in the industry believe that only around 15 to 20% of such occurrences are recorded and made public via the media. Rebecca Coriam, who was last seen on board the cruise ship Disney Wonder on the 22nd of March 2011, was sailing to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, from Los Angeles. And she is one such example of someone going missing. The story has gone public, and yet it remains so unsettling and perplexing because there has never been an answer. Rebecca Coriam was a 24-year-old woman from Chester, England. Her main role on the Disney Wonder was to entertain children, and she seems to love what she did. She was good at it too, being a well-regarded member of the team and with plenty of shining reviews from parents and kids alike. Yet, despite being liked and despite being a perfectly normal woman just doing a good job, she disappeared entirely. Coriam was last seen caught on CCTV on the 22nd of March 2011 at 5:45 a.m. She was in the crew lounge and the cameras saw her talking to an unknown person on an internal phone line. She was wearing men's clothing and she was clearly agitated, although exactly what she was saying has never been determined. After hanging up the phone in this admittedly strange and upsetting footage, she was never seen nor heard from again. When Coriam did not show up for her 9 a.m. shift, Disney personnel were quickly told to search the ship for her, but they were unsuccessful. The US Coast Guard and Mexican Navy were subsequently asked to conduct a search of the nearby waters, because if she wasn't on the ship, she had to have gone overboard. But they too came up empty-handed. Coriam's location was a mystery. According to Rebecca's father, Mike Coriam, Disney ignored conventional operating standards and did not turn the ship back to hunt for his daughter. He also claims that the Navy and Coast Guard troops were given inaccurate coordinates and presumably searched in the wrong area of the water. This would explain a lot, assuming that she did fall, jump, or was pushed into the sea. Yet, because we don't know that for sure, it's hard to work out whether this would have made much difference. It's certainly odd that these mistakes were made, if they were, and Disney is not denying or confirming anything. Rebecca Coriam's parents sued Disney for not carrying out an adequate duty of care for their daughter, who was an employee of the huge corporation. The jurisdiction of the lawsuit went to the nation of the ship's registry under the Flags of Convenience system, which in this instance was the tax haven of the Bahamas. Disney called the Royal Bahamas Police Force, the RBPF, 3 days after Coriam's disappearance to begin an inquiry. RBPF reacted by sending one detective, Superintendent Paul Roll, to find out what on earth could have happened, because something had to have done. People don't just disappear even when you consider the magic of Disney coming into play. Roll was flown out to Los Angeles by Disney on a private plane. He spent 1 day on the Disney Wonder when it returned to port, interviewing just 6 of the 950 personnel and none of the 2,000 or so passengers. Perhaps Roll didn't want to upset such a big contributor to the economy. Maybe he was scared by the daunting task ahead of him. Perhaps he just wanted the same good treatment to get him home again and didn't want to rock the boat. Whatever it was, this hardly seems like a thorough investigation when a woman's life could have been at stake. After all, if one person had disappeared, why not more? What if there was a killer loose on the boat? Roll didn't ask. After many days of stalled contact, Disney sent Rebecca's parents, Mike and Anne Coriam, to Los Angeles to meet with the detective and the ship's captain. The Coriams were handled Disney style in the case of their lost daughter. Everything was staged by Disney, Anne claims. We were taken in a car with blacked out windows to the boat's back entrance as passengers disembarked from the front. They took us to a room where they played CCTV footage of Rebecca where, largely, she appears to be fine. After this, the captain of the Disney Wonder provided the family his opinion on their daughter's fate. Rebecca had, he theorised, most certainly been washed off Deck 5 by a rogue wave. Mike and Anne were then shown Deck 5, a crew swimming pool area immediately in front of the ship's bridge and surrounded by 6-foot-high walls. They were then led to the crew quarters and Rebecca's stateroom, where they were shown a sandal, reportedly belonging to Rebecca, which had been found on Deck 5. The Coriams watched from the shore as the Disney Wonder sailed out from port for its second voyage the next day. Despite the fact that the RBPF case was still being investigated, Disney declared the heartbreaking situation to be resolved and laid flowers on the spot of the suspected rogue wave disaster on Deck 5 in a ceremony attended by members of the ship's crew. Unsatisfied with Disney's explanation for their daughter's disappearance, the Coriams recruited private investigator Roy Ram, a former Scotland Yard expert, and enlisted the help of Chester MP Chris Matheson and former Deputy Prime Minister Lord Prescott. What they discovered outside of the formal inquiry has troubling implications for Rebecca Coriam's potential destiny. Disney has long claimed that Rebecca was washed off Deck 5 by a rogue wave sometime between 6 and 9 a.m. on the 22nd of March. This narrative, however, has significant contradictions. According to Ram's testimony, the weather and ocean conditions near Puerto Vallarta, where the ship was docked, do not indicate at any hint of inclement weather, let alone a rogue wave that would need to be roughly 100 feet or 30 metres high to wash a person over the 6-foot walls enclosing Deck 5 and overboard. The CCTV video showing Rebecca talking animatedly on an internal phone line at the time of her last known sighting is the major piece of tangible evidence in her disappearance. During his investigations, Ram determined that the CCTV film had been edited to conceal the timestamp and location. That film, according to Disney, was captured indoors on Deck 5 near where Rebecca was supposedly lost overboard. Ram and other investigators discovered that the tape was recorded on Deck 1, nowhere near the location of Rebecca's supposed accidental death. All it took was watching an undoctored copy of it, which proved the lie. However, no matter what truths or untruths have been uncovered, copies of this tape have been consistently refused to the family. The sandal, purportedly recovered on Deck 5 that belonged to Rebecca, was another noteworthy piece of physical evidence presented by Disney. However, this shoe had the name and cabin number of another person entirely, and both family and staff members maintained that the sandal was both the incorrect size and not in Rebecca's style. A few months after Rebecca's disappearance, The Guardian's investigative writer Jon Ronson came aboard the Disney Wonder to try to make sense of the Coriam event. He discovered dubious and perhaps nefarious intents behind Disney's explanation of the Coriam issue when speaking with team members. "Disney knows exactly what happened," one crew member said. "That phone call she received? It was videotaped. Everything in this room is recorded. Everywhere you look, there's CCTV. And Disney owns the tape." When Ronson inquired more about Rebecca, another staff member said, "I don't know anything about it. It didn't happen. You know that's the answer I have to give." Rebecca's relatives and friends in England characterised her as energetic and happy-go-lucky. Working at Disney would necessitate having a generally positive attitude, as, according to a crew member, Disney wouldn't employ you if you weren't that type of person. Other crew members and close friends of Rebecca aboard the ship, on the other hand, offer a more nuanced portrait of her character than her parents and the media. One crew member characterised Rebecca as a nice girl with underlying depression when questioned about her. Tracy Medley, Rebecca's lover and co-worker on board the Wonder, broke her silence on the events of 2011 in 2017. She alleges that night she and Rebecca had a threesome with Medley's boyfriend. Apparently, Medley had wanted to cheer Rebecca up as she had been distressed about her and Medley's fiery and passionate relationship for a few weeks before she disappeared. The plan backfired badly. Medley said that Rebecca went crazy and she and 3 others were trying to help Coriam back to her room. However, she began to scream, cry, punch herself in the face and bang her head against the walls of the ship. Later that same night, Coriam reportedly said something along the lines of feeling like a failure because she wasn't brave enough to jump off the ship. The shock of sharing her girlfriend with another man, and potentially even a friend of hers, or simply sexually competing for Medley's attention, may have sent Rebecca into a state of despair. Medley thinks she wanted to get off the ship and possibly end her life, and went over the 6-foot rails of Deck 5 on purpose. Rebecca's family and friends in England have vehemently disputed that she committed suicide, however. Rebecca Coriam's case, according to crew members, family, friends, and even police, was a bungled investigation. With just 6 officially documented interviews, suppressed material, and no forensic investigation, the amount of police work performed is objectively difficult to be happy with. A close friend, and one of the last people on board the ship to see Rebecca alive, told the BBC, "I was never spoken to by any security or police at all. To call this an investigation is an insult." In 2016, RAM discovered a ripped and damaged pair of shorts among Rebecca's personal items from her cabin. He and other law enforcement officers suspected this indicated a fight, maybe a sexual assault, prior to her disappearance. This ties in partly with what Tracy Medley said, although perhaps there is more to this threesome than meets the eye. Was Rebecca really a willing participant? The Coriam family discovered activity on Rebecca's bank account and a new password on her Facebook account months after her disappearance. It was at this point that MP Matheson said, "I believe there's sufficient evidence to indicate a crime may well have taken place," although perhaps this evidence also points to the idea that Rebecca is not dead. that nothing happened to her, that she left the ship of her own accord and safely and just wanted to start again? These are the questions that need to be asked. Friends and relatives are still looking for answers to the same nagging issues a decade later. Despite the fact that the case has mostly gone cold, closure and answers are still required. If you have any information on Rebecca Coriam's story, please visit rebecca-coriam.com. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed the content, click the subscribe and like buttons so you can receive more content like this strange story every week. See you next time.